it has been an amazing hiatus. Uh, 3 months ago, I had no idea that I would be doing my next show 3 months later on Zoom. But the world as we knew it has changed big time. And I haven't been doing weekly shows. I did do a wonderful campfire visit with a very good friend and an amazing new host. Todd Goldfinger came on the show a couple times, and almost a year ago, he came on and said, "You know what? I think I could do a show of my own." Man, was he right. Uh, he's dynamite, and he's been doing a lot of great things. And I could not resist when he looked across that campfire at me and said, "Can we do a show?" And I said, "For you, anytime." So my guest today is my host, Todd Goldfinger.
Yes.
He has become an amazing host. He's had some rock stars on. I've been watching him. And he asked me a very important question. Where have you been, Vin Dacquino? And I sat there and said, whoa, loaded question. Where I've been is in a period of self-reflection. This whole COVID-19 has changed a whole lot about me. A year ago today, I was doing 3, 4, 5 presentations a week and going to places talking about my brand new book, Patriot Hero of the Hudson Valley. Came out April 1st last year. And all of a sudden, I found myself doing like 36 talks in a month. And it was awakening because it came from another book that I did 20 years ago. And what happened was I did the book on Sybil Ludington, corrected all kinds of errors. I wrote the call to arms. And when I did the call to arms, I helped people to understand that what we knew about Sybil Ludington wasn't true. And teachers were actually teaching false information. And it wasn't on purpose. It was an honest mistake made by historians. So after 3 years of some pretty heavy searching and researching, I was able to straighten out Sybil's story. Well, about 2 years ago, I found out an amazing fact that there was information we didn't know yet. And I had to use that information to help readers understand more about Sybil, especially since when I went online, I found that people were doubting her, saying that Sybil Ludington did not take that famous ride way back in 1777. Viewers might remember that Sybil Ludington was a 16-year-old female hero of the Revolutionary War. She called out troops, her father's troops, to help repel the British in Danbury, Connecticut. The British had 2,000 men. They marched up through Connecticut. They set the city on fire. So it was devastating. And Sybil had to call the troops out, and off they went. Well, that's what Sybil became famous for. But lately, she's famous for the fact that people were saying, hey, what proof do we have that she took this ride? So I had to go out and see what I could do about getting new information. And Patriot Hero of the Hudson Valley is filled with letters and information that I uncovered at the New York Museum, the New York Historical Museum. And it was letters that were put out by the family. So I have been busy with this new book. I've been busy doing, as Todd, as you know, running writers' workshops for Mahopac Library for the veterans. In the past, I've taught for Westchester Community College. So I am an advocate for new writers. I try to get writers to be all they can be as writers. So I've been busy doing that. That's where Vinny Dacquino has been. Fortunately, I've been doing it on Zoom and not firsthand. I've also been spending a great deal of time watching videos of you, Todd, and some of the things that you've been doing. So I know you have questions for me, and you know that I could keep talking for 9 hours.
It's good.
Nonstop, but I won't.
Okay.
I know there's some questions you have about my past,
Sure.
questions you have about how I got where I am today,
Mm-hmm.
and questions about where I've been. So shoot, buddy.
Okay, so first I want to start off by saying Happy Father's Day. Wow.
Thank you. Hey, I have to show you my favorite Father's Day gift, or one of my favorites. The other favorite, well, here's one. I'm going to stand for this because the shirt I'm wearing is pictures of my grandchildren.
Wow.
This is Katie on this side. Oh, wait, this side. Katie is my granddaughter. Christian is here. And I have a new granddaughter that's been amazing because I had to wait 3 months before I could see this kid.
Wow.
Because she was born in March, right at the beginning of COVID. And my daughter couldn't take a chance of having someone from Westchester or near Westchester County come there because this was the hub. And there were so many cases here. So she was afraid, we were afraid. We didn't dare go. And for 3 months, I had to sit tight before I could actually hold this kid. So this is a very special Father's Day for me because I now have a new granddaughter, 3 months old. So it's been great. This morning, I was out in the backyard with my son, who every year for the past like 10 years has created a garden for me. And he makes a vegetable garden for Father's Day, goes out and plants all these vegetables, and we live off them over the summer. So it's been a wonderful Father's Day. Thank you for wishing that. And so far it's great. And I get to spend it with a good friend. Todd, you and I go way back.
We do.
I remember a 12-year-old boy who used to go to summer camp with me.
That's right.
And you've grown into quite a young man. And you're still growing. I have to say, I honestly believe that I will be watching you on regular TV, thrilled at the fact that you have come as far as you have.
Thank you.
Yeah. So it is Father's Day, and you had another question for me.
Yeah, so I thought we could start, in no particular order, but to talk about the Peanut Butter and Jelly Writing Academy. What is that?
Yeah, so that goes really back to my roots. In 1972, I hate to say that because it kind of reveals the fact that I'm not 35 years old, but in 1972, I became a teacher for the first time. I graduated college and was hired at Ardsley Schools. And I began working with students in poetry. And at the time, I was a football coach. So the newspaper headlines read, "Football coach will not pass on poetry." And a lot of the kids, a lot of these rough, tough boys, they were like, "Poetry?" And I said, "Yeah." And there was a contest called the Greenberg Poetry Contest. Well, I used to have my kids enter the contest. One year, we took first, second, third, and runner-up in that contest. And these students were getting into poetry and loving it.
Hmm.
So we created a poetry group called the Peanut Butter and Jelly Writing Academy. And it was something that I carried on through Pelham. Uh, After teaching at Ardsley for 15 years, I went on to Pelham. I became a drama advisor, and there was a teacher center. And through that teacher center, I created this thing called the Peanut Butter and Jelly. I recreated the Peanut Butter and Jelly Writing Academy. And the idea was to bring cookies and milk and peanut butter and jelly sandwiches. Of course, in those days, the peanut butter uh, dilemma
Hmm.
of kids being allergic to peanut butter wasn't an issue yet. So we had peanut butter and jelly, and we wrote poems together. And this whole idea of working through a workshop, having someone hear your work and criticize it or compliment it,
Hmm.
worked. So what happened was I also then began teaching writing for Westchester Community College, and I began a writing workshop about the time that Sybil Ludington began.
Hmm.
And I went to the Mahopac Library to talk about Sybil Ludington, and they said, "Hey, we've been trying to start a writer's workshop, and would you kick it off for us?" Well, I kicked it off all right. Kicked it off for 22 years. It was only supposed to be a 1 year deal, uh, but it lasted a long time. And I based it on the Peanut Butter and Jelly Writing Academy.
Hmm.
The whole idea of bring food, don't make it a hostile environment, allow people to be risk takers, be all they can be as writers, and it'll work. And it has worked. It has worked for all of these years, continues to work. I now do it for the veterans of Putnam County. And these veterans come in and they write about some of their experiences as vets. Some of them simply begin writing. Uh, what I talk to them about is that they don't have to write about their military experience. What they have to do is get inside themselves and write about the things that mean something to them.
Hmm.
So many of them write things that have absolutely nothing to do with their military career. Some of them write exactly about their military career, and they get into some pretty hard places, places that they've had hidden for many years. Writing is a wonderful way to say what you need. Uh, I've said to you 100 times, I know you've heard it till it's come out of your ears. Readers are leaders, writers are fighters, fighting for the right to be heard. And that's what I do. I help writers fight for their right to be heard, to say what it is, whether it's humorous or sad or painful, whether it's novels or short stories or magazine articles. Writing is a wonderful vehicle for getting inside your head and your heart and your soul and saying what it is you really want. So I have become a true advocate of writing, have been for years and years, and probably will be to my gravestone. Any other questions there, Todd?
Absolutely. That was an amazing answer. Amazing answer. It's very good. So that sort of leads us to Sybil Ludington, The Call to Arms 2000.
Yeah, you know, I truly believe that people need to be who they are. And when I found Sybil, I found someone who was being ripped off by history. The fact is that there was a paragraph being written about her in magazines and books from the 1930s up to 1997 when I began writing this book. The paragraph basically said, after her famous ride, Sybil Ludington married her childhood sweetheart, Edmund or Edward or Henry Ogden, depending on the article. His name kept changing. In fact, there was even a memoir written about Sybil's father, And in that book, all three names were used until the author finally said, we're not sure of her husband's name. It said that she was the mother of 6 children, 4 boys and 2 girls. One of her sons was a hero in Kansas. Her husband was a lawyer in Catskill, New York. Truth is, none of that was true. Sybil was not the mother of 6 children. She did not marry Edward or Henry Ogden. He was not a lawyer in Catskill. Her son was not a hero in Kansas. What happened was historians made a huge mistake. They said that Sybil married Henry Ogden. When the Daughters of the American Revolution finally realized that Sybil was and should be a hero, they put up signs along her route and they began teaching people about Sybil. They went to the history books to find out more about her early life. What they found were history books that said she married Henry. They looked into Henry and they said, oh, Henry had 6 children, 4 boys and 2 girls.
Mm-hmm.
He was a lawyer in Catskill, New York. There was only one problem. It wasn't her husband. It was her son. Historians made a mistake and they flipped her husband's name with her son's. Threw off historians for years. So I had to undo all of that when I wrote the book. And I finally did get it straight after 3 years and got the book all together. So that's where that book came from. And it was really an effort to help Sybil be who she needed to be. Well, 20 years later, I found out that that wasn't Sybil's goal at all. I now realize that Sybil's goal was not to help people understand who she was. Her goal was to get the recognition for her husband that he deserved. This guy served 3 times in the Revolutionary War. He was a hero in his own right. He was on the ship, the Bonhomme Richard, with John Paul Jones. This man was a hero. No one even knew who he was. Sybil was not going to remain dead, knowing that fact. She wanted her husband to get the credit he deserved. Now, her grandson, Edmund Augustus Ogden. Edmund Augustus Ogden was Sybil's grandson. He served in several wars, but the most incredible thing about him, he graduated from West Point, something that his grandmother made sure happened. When he was in Kansas, he was helping women and children who were overtaken by a virus. And what was happening is these women and children were dying. They were dying of cholera. And soldiers left. And he stayed and he nursed those women and children and died from the virus. So he was a father of, he had actually 7 children of his own. 6 of them survived. 2 of them died early at birth, but he gave his life in 1855 at 44 years old. Todd, unbelievable. I went to the town that this kid grew up in. No mention of him anywhere. So her son did not get the credit that he deserved. Her father served Putnam and Dutchess County his entire life and helped in so many ways. He was a hero for this county until he was 80 years old. He served. And there's not a statue in this county with his name on it. And he's hardly recognized today. So after 20 years, I realized that Sybil Ludington, real goal was to get me to help her get those three people the recognition they deserve. So in these past few months, one of the things I've been doing is fighting to get them the recognition. So two major things happen. One is I did get the Daughters of the American Revolution to recognize her husband as a three-time soldier in the Revolutionary War and a hero in his own right. And they have now made him a patriot of the Daughters of the American Revolution. The second major thing was that I went to Unadilla, New York, where her grandson grew up, and I told my story. And I said, come with me to the monument you have in town here with the names of all of these people who served in wars. Where is Edmund Augustus Ogden? The young man who grew up here, went to your schools, went to West Point, gave his life saving women and children, gave the ultimate sacrifice, and his name is not mentioned? Well, good news. If it were not for this virus, I would have already gone to a ceremony in Unadilla where they have now paid for a brick, the Historic Society paid for a brick in Edmund Augustus Ogden's honor. And that brick will be placed in the town monument. Also, the house that Sybil lived in for 30 years with her son and daughter-in-law and their 6 children has been knocked down. That empty lot will now bear a bench with a plaque that says the former home of Sybil Ludington Ogden, hero of the Revolutionary War.
Wow.
So it took me 20 years to figure out what Sybil was haunting me for. And Todd, I'm serious, she was haunting me. And I wrote a book called Hauntings of the Hudson River. And I included Sybil in the book because she's been making me crazy. I didn't know what she wanted until this year. So those two things have been accomplished. I'm still working on her father. I still would like to see a plaque somewhere in this town with his name on it, or a statue, or some kind of memorial that shows that we appreciate all of the years that he put in serving our country and our county.
Wow.
Well,
Wow. So I was going to ask you, your thoughts on the American Revolution, but okay. Well, there's also a Patriot Hero of the Hudson. What's that?
now the Patriot Hero of the Hudson is the new book. And what happened was, about 2 years ago, I went online to see if all of those things that I had corrected about Sybil had been still corrected. The answer was no. That many of the things, the fact that she had 6 children, was still being quoted. I was finding it online. The fact that her husband was a lawyer, that his name was Edward or Henry, was still there. So I said, oh my God, I have to go back and re-correct all of the things I corrected. And then to make matters worse, people were saying, hey, we don't have any proof that she even took this ride. It's a myth. It's a legend. Never happened. Made me nuts. So I said, I have to go back to the books. I have to find something that is more than hearsay to prove that Sybil did take this famous ride. So when I went back, I was able to discover letters that were donated to the New York Historical Society by Jane Ludington, who was the wife of
Henry?
Henry Ludington, but not having a senior moment
Uh-oh.
Uh,
Technical difficulties.
and they've been, and what happened was that his story went all the way back beyond what we believed was the first mention of Sybil's ride.
Hmm.
So, uh, so what happened was that I was able to uncover these letters and find letters that were written by Sybil herself, letters to her grandchildren. We didn't even know for sure what her grandchildren's names were. By doing this, I was even able to find a great, 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 great granddaughter of Sybil who lives in LA. And I tracked her down and had her apply to the DAR under Sybil's name. Unfortunately, the DAR still was not convinced that we had enough proof that Sybil took this ride, and they made her husband a hero instead of Sybil. Well, I was absolutely flabbergasted until I realized that that was one of Sybil's goals. She was not, again, trying to prove that she deserved to be a hero, but that her husband and her father and her grandson deserved to be. So I really have redirected my fight for Sybil's rights and realized that this was a fight for more than Sybil. And it's coming all together. I think I'm pretty much at the end of my road. Uh, Sybil has become a hero. People are still not 100% convinced, but all these talks I've been giving about my book have helped a great deal. I was scheduled to speak at the FDR Presidential Library in March, got canceled. I was scheduled to do 8 or 9 more talks that just could never happen because of the virus. And to answer the very first question of this whole thing, Vin Dacquino has gone on a hiatus. And I've been self-reflecting, and I've been doing gardening and working on my yard and working on my head and trying to figure out just who I am and what legacy am I going to leave? What have I done to contribute during my time here? And I have to say that Sybil Ludington was a big part of that, helping people to understand that your story doesn't end with your grave. In many cases, your story begins there. And the legacy you leave behind is very much a gift to the people who will come after you. If we do not teach the children of today about their yesterday, we're stealing a piece of tomorrow. And we need to remember where we've been. Some of the things that this virus is reminding us that we have been forgetting all of the things that we have. In these last 3 months, I have stopped worrying about the things I want. And I've begun to really and truly appreciate wanting the things I have. I see my children and grandchildren, my wife, my friends in a whole different way. I look at Todd Goldfinger and I see the 12-year-old boy, but I also see someone who has come a long way. And Todd, I know that you've given me permission to say you've been to the bottom. You almost killed yourself with the understanding that life was horrible, and you found the goodness in it. You found the importance of being alive. You know that one of my best friends was Roy Campanella, who wrote a book called It's Good to Be Alive. Here was a man who was on the top of his game. He was one of the best catchers in the world. a black man conquering a white world. He had everything going for him, and he got into an accident that stole his legs, his career, his wife, almost his children. His entire world collapsed. And he ended up writing a book called It's Good to Be Alive. And I learned from Roy that it ain't over till it's over. And you never stop. You have to keep moving, even if it's in a wheelchair. And he taught me how to appreciate life. And sitting on my back deck, looking at the yard that I labored over for 3 months is a gift. In the past, I could never sit more than 5 minutes before I had to jump out of that chair and go do something. And I didn't realize that I was already doing something. Hang on just a second.
Sure, no problem. I can also pause it. I can make a pause.
I'm sorry. Speaking of appreciating what you have, my wife just asked me a very, very important question.
Sure.
Do I want 2 steaks or 1 steak at my Father's Day barbecue?
You got to go for 2. You have to have 2 steaks.
Yep. So maybe 2.
You want to have some for later.
Yep. So Todd, this has been a time for reflection, not
Sure.
only for me, but for America. We are in an amazing time. This whole business of racial relations, I grew up with that my whole life. And I've gone to parties with Roy where I was the only white man in the entire party. And I understand how it feels to be quote unquote different. And one of the things that I learned, it's not being different that matters, it's being unique that matters. You have to take who you are, what you are, and make the most of it. That's what life is. Find out who you are and find a reason to live. And I am so proud of you for being able to do that. You scared me half to death, but I'm not surprised that you climbed off that bottom. You're going to find a top that I couldn't find. I see so much promise for you, Todd. And I'm proud to be on your show. This might be my show today, but in real truth, it's as much your show as it is mine. You got me off my seat to do this show. I haven't done a show in 3 months. I came back on the air today because of you and because I'm so proud of what you're doing and what you got me to do, to get up and get back on the air. So here I am, and it's thanks to you, my man.
That's great. Thank you so much. Thank you.
All right, I don't know what else you want to cover.
Well, it's great because like we're pretty much at the. I have to check. I put a stopwatch so that we can time ourselves.
Good.
So we're at the it says 34 minutes. So I didn't know if you wanted to do a reset and talk some more, or we can say, hey, that has been a great episode of One-on-One with Vin Dacquino.
You got it. Thank you for tuning in. Thank you for being part of it. And Todd, thank you for being you.
Thank you so much for allowing me to be me as well.
Have a good one. Enjoy the rest of your day.
Have a very happy Father's Day. And everybody out there, stay safe, stay well, and keep tuning in.
Wait, and remember this on Father's Day. There are some amazing fathers there who have passed, amazing women who have taken the father's roles. Fathers come in all shapes and sizes. You don't have to be a man to be a father on Father's Day. All you have to do is have the heart of a father. And there's a whole lot of them out there. Appreciate the people who have taken on father's roles for you. They didn't have to be your biological father to deserve credit on this day.
That's right.
Happy Father's Day to all of you.
Happy Father's Day to all of you. And honorable mention at the end, I want to tell you, here's Kiss the Candy Days Goodbye, your first book, which was written.
Thank you.
1982 published. You were 32 years old when this was published to a major publishing company. I want to say thank you for all that you've done for the community and everyone around. You're a great success, and thank you so much, Vinny. You're the best.
Thank you for getting me back on the air today, Todd.
You got it, man. You got it.
Thank you for being one-on-one with Todd Goldfinger and Vinny Dacquino.
You got it, man. Have a great day.
Beautiful, buddy. You're the best.
You're the best. You're the best.
All right. Thank you, Todd.
Take care, man. Cheers.
You too.
See you soon.
Yep.